Padre Pio used to say, and the people wondered at this, there are more people that come to my Mass from the other side than from this side. And yet people would look around, there's not a space to breathe in the church. And they're saying, well, how many more can we squeeze in here? What does he mean from the other side? Oh, the other side of the Gargano Mountains? No, the other side. And he would say that numerous times. Sometimes the church would be so packed that people couldn't breathe. And he would remind the people, no, here at this celebration. And I've experienced that. That's not a new phenomenon to me. Is when I do these rituals, it is amazing the people who are still stuck, who find these conscious, how will I say this? Consciously exercised rituals are of a great help to them because you're still learning on the other side. It's not done. You don't die, go over the other side and sit on a cloud for all eternity. You still work. You're still there helping the people on this side. And a lot of times it's because we're in purgatorial states, not purgatory, the doctrine, but purging states because we haven't learned our lesson. I'll never forget in the seminary, I had this brilliant man that was so intimidating. He was a Benedictine monk. His name was Father Donald. And he got his doctorate in Rome in 6 months. That's the kind of guy he was. I mean, boom, 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 boom. And when he'd walk into the classroom, he'd talk dogmatic theology. He'd walk through the door and start lecturing. Immediately, it was like, okay, I'm here, let's go. And he would lecture nonstop until the bell rang. And then he'd walk out the door first. And we'd all sit there. And one day, somebody asked him, well, how do we determine this heaven-hell thing? And one night, he said, oh, gentlemen, here, look at the blackboard. And he drew 2 lines. He said, let's call this upper level, let's call this lower level. But it's about consciousness. Then he drew 2 things like this, one in each level. A door. That's called death. That's the doorway into the other world. He says, gentlemen, all you have to understand is that when you're walking this level of consciousness, high or low, this level, when you go through the door, that's the same level you're on when you arrive at that side. You cannot go down, you cannot go up. If you're on this lower consciousness level and you go through the door, when you get on the other side, you're at that level. So you take with you your consciousness. And then he went on to another subject. We all sat there like, huh? All these years of Catholic training and no one ever told us it's that simple? That you take your jealousies, your anxieties, your unforgiveness, all that junk with you to the other side. So, looking at it that way, yeah, you can definitely believe in reincarnation. That is a great possibility. If it's so much junk, you might have to come back and release more of it. But there are those in consciousness who have walked a spiritual path. And when they went to the other side, they may still need purging, but their purgatorial state, their purging state, is to still work helping the people on this side. In Catholic terminology, we call it the communion of saints. Now, here's the funny thing about this doctrine. It really means there's been a bunch of people. It's stated a little more elegantly than that. But there's these bunch of people who died. They went to the other side. Eventually, they might be saints, but you can pray and invoke their presence, and they can come and assist you up to a certain point. If they actually show up, well, we have a problem with that. See, the doctrine stops with the point that they can help. But they must not show up that you see them. That seems to kind of make the hierarchy anxious. Hey, we got to look at this from a real, an honest perspective here. And so when I look at the communion of saints, I look at it as a whole group of people ready, willing, and able to help. They might be doctors, they might be psychiatrists, they might be priests, they might be monks, they might be men, they might be women, but they're all there still working out their salvation, still being purified. You get purified best when you're at loving service for others. So, basically, that's all I want to say on this particular subject. That Padre Pio, for example, was an individual, and I talk about this in my new book, Reclaim Your Spiritual Power. He was an individual that when he was dying, he told the people who were concerned that all the spiritual work was going to fall apart. He said, nah. When I die and get to the other side, I'm going to make more noise than I ever made here. And they said, huh? He says, in other words, I'm going to be more able to help you than I could while I was in the body. St. Dominic said the same thing. When I die, I'm going to assist you more than I could ever do while I was in this body. You know, Teresa of Lisieux, the little flower, said the same thing. Don't worry about me. Don't cry for me, Argentina. Don't worry about me, you know. Is that when I get to the other side, I'm going to let fall graces like roses that will startle you. In other words, I can do much more when I'm on that side for you than I could ever do on this side. They knew something. That's what I'm sharing with you right now. However, there are people who die that don't know that. They may die from suicide. They may die violently. They may die being murdered. And they wake up literally confused. They don't know where they're at. That's why in the Christian church, specifically Catholic Orthodox, and in Kabbalistic Judaism, there are exorcists. Not just for these demonic, dark spiritual energies, but also there are these deliverers who help people that have died get on to the other side. It's not New Age foo-foo stuff. I'm talking about the true mysticism where through prayer, through various forms of ritual, through communion services, etc., people are released. And a lot of times, you know, there are cases where out of the blue, someone at 45 ends up just like that overnight with diabetes. Not diabetes 2, but diabetes 1, type 1 diabetes. And they'll try everything. The doctors will say, I don't know how this happened, blah, blah, blah. And someone will come along that's usually clairvoyant and say, oh, and they will say to the person, and I've seen these cases, do you know someone who looks like this because I see this person? Oh, yeah, that's my grandmother. Uh-huh. Your grandmother died with diabetes? Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, your grandmother is confused. She's still here with you. You have constantly wanted her help. You carried this grief when she died. You still want her presence. She wants to go on. But you are so closely united, you now have her disease. And there are many cases like that. Many cases like that. The clairvoyant watches. The communion service is offered. The person then makes the decision to release grandmother. And then grandmother can now go on to the other side to continue her work. So always remember that a spirit, a person, when they die, takes to the other side whatever consciousness they were in when they left the body. And if that is an evil consciousness, and that person is still stuck on this plane, then they're going to look for anyone who vibrates at the same level that they are now vibrating. So if that person that went over is extremely jealous and hateful because they're jealous, and you are jealous and hateful, that spirit, doesn't have to be family member, will find you and attach itself to you. But fear not, we can get rid of this. We can send this on. But I'm making you aware that if everything you've done is failing, then this might be the answer. This is what you might need to know. And I don't want to go into a lot of depth here. I'll share with you what is important. And I really believe that's why finally, just last year in England, they passed a ruling that exorcism could now be used as valid therapy in psychiatry. Not exorcism in the sense of the movie Exorcist. You know, that stuff is just drama. But exorcism can be extremely rough. There's a difference between obsession, which most people are involved in. You're obsessed by spirit attachments. But very few are possessed by pure evil. But it does happen. That's when you need an exorcist. So I just wanted to share that with you, not to scare you, but help you to become consciously aware of what's going on and what you can do about it. Now, very briefly, an elemental is any strong negative thought or desire that you keep dwelling on over the years and you create it. Most of the time, we create those. Did you see the movie Ghost? Anyone see the movie Ghost? At one particular point when that nasty guy died, not the first one, but the one that was trying to get the first guy's wife. If you don't know the story, I'm not going to tell you. But anyhow, at the end, this guy dies, and he finally realizes, and then these black things come out of the ground, and they grab him, and they take him until he goes into the nether world. That would be the way I would describe elementals. Something you've created by your thoughts of, say, lust, continual promiscuity. There's nothing wrong with sex. The fact is, in a balanced situation, if you're living a lifestyle in which you're consciously hurting people, you're creating an elemental because you're continually dwelling and feeding what is nothing, something. You're feeding this energy, all right? And it's becoming stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger until it literally encases you. And you can't seem to get out of it. That's when you need spiritual help. So that's basically, in short order, what an elemental is, but I cover that in more detail in Prayer in the 5 Stages of Healing. So that you understand that. And dark energies, they can come from other people. They can come by the accumulated evil, the accumulation of evil in the world. And we do need to be protected from that. But we can be simply protected by just becoming a spiritual being, which is already what we are. We just finally need to know it. But I want to be totally guided by the Spirit, but I want to keep reminding you to not be afraid. There are at least 365 allusions in both the Hebrew and Christian Testament that tell us, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to fear. The I am is here. You can't be separated from the eternal I am. That presence is always with us. But I do encourage you, besides getting some teaching tools or learning tools, also get the type of tools where you can just sit and listen and go deeper into meditation, like meditation for a God consciousness, sacred verses, healing prayers, where I'm doing the work and you're simply receiving. Because that, again, will help your faith develop. That's the one way I can help you. My connection with the divine in your presence, in your willingness, consciously to be in that presence, will open up your chakras, will open up all areas of your being so that energy can literally, I don't like to use the term invade, but invade your energy field with good, with positive thoughts of truth. It's difficult to make frontal attacks on negativity. How many have ever gone on a diet? You've decided, I am going to make a frontal attack on this weight. And of course, then everything you ever hated starts to look good. It doesn't matter. I never liked this, but it looks good today. That's a frontal attack. You find out what the opposite is. And you focus on that. Like, you don't focus on fear. The opposite of fear is love. Because the scriptures say, Paul's letter to Timothy, perfect love, that's God's love, casts out fear. So focus on the love. Don't focus on the fear. When you focus on the love, you'll also increase your faith. Because Paul's letter to the Galatians says, faith is increased by love. It's that simple. Hey, what more can I tell you? God bless.